need to end Citizens United. That's not going to happen tomorrow. But what you can do is within the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, you can have rules that says, you want to be the candidate of the Democratic Party? Well, guess what? You tell, and this is again tricky, you tell that you announce very clearly you do not want any super PACs supporting you.
Let's talk about this appearance from Senator Bernie Sanders on Andrew Schulz's Flagrant podcast. Let me be clear before we continue with this piece, okay? I know that a lot of y'all have followed this content for a while. I know that y'all are wise beyond your years in understanding leftist politics. However, I do feel it's important to understand that Andrew Schulz, with a predominantly right-wing audience, is taking in at this very moment.
We have a question we want to ask about what happened to you in 2016 with this Bernie Bros movement, where your followers are seeing they have a racism problem, a misogyny problem. Do you think that's a super PAC thing behind that?
That was the Democratic establishment. That was the...
wow. Okay.
That was just, they were sitting there. We had a lot of young people. We had people of color. And they create this kind of myth with the help of the corporate media and all that stuff.
Is anyone surprised by this, though? I mean, we knew this all the way back in 2016, 2017, when the New York Times even reported on the WikiLeaks hack. Among the emails released were several embarrassing messages that suggest the committee's chairwoman, Florida Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and other officials favored Hillary Clinton over Bernard Sanders, a claim the senator made repeatedly during the primaries. They would add this: the emails appear to bolster Mr. Sanders' claims at the committee, and in particular, Debbie Wasserman Schultz didn't treat him fairly, which is true. His campaign accused the committee of scheduling debates on weekends so fewer people would see them, and in May, Sanders' campaign manager, Jeff Weaver, would say on CNN that, quote, "We could have a long conversation just about Wasserman Schultz and how she single-handedly has been throwing shade at the Sanders campaign since the very beginning." The Chicago Tribune would also write, top Dems essentially dismissed Bernie Sanders as a viable candidate during the primaries, attempted to undermine him with voters, and even took steps to derail his campaign, according to hacked emails that were recently made public by WikiLeaks at the time of that article's publishing.
So the issue is what you stand for, which gets you back to what we discussed earlier, class politics, in the sense of which side are you on? Are you going to stand with working families? Are you going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage or not? Are you going to fight to guarantee health care to all people or not? Are you going to demand that the wealthiest people start paying their fair share of taxes or not? Those are the issues. And no one cares what color you are, what your gender is, et cetera, et cetera.
They also touch on the issue of our time.
You're running for office. If you, in your heart, understand what's going on in Gaza right now, and again, it's almost painful to talk about it. The United States is complicit in the starvation of children as we speak right this moment, okay? Mass malnutrition, etc. And you say, that's wrong, man. And I'm not going to give Netanyahu another nickel, but I know that the day I say that, AIPAC is going to pour a huge amount of money. So what's the choice you have? The choice you have is, okay, they're going to throw a lot of money at me, but I'm going to make this a major campaign issue.
Ooh.
I ain't going to run away from it.
Yeah.
What do we stand for as a nation? And I'll tell you something, getting back to the Democratic Party, what the Democratic establishment people say, well, Gaza, it's an issue out there, but it's not the main issue. It's not the pocketbook issues, more important. Healthcare is more important. But you know what? I'll tell you this is my own view, is what people have a sense, consciously and unconsciously, if you are turning your back on starving children in Gaza, why the hell am I going to trust you on anything?
It's a great point.
Is that a fair point?
I think it's a very fair point.
I saw, before I get into my own personal thoughts on this, I saw a pretty good reaction from Haas on his broadcast. Here that is.
I was up in Westchester campaigning for Bowman.
Yeah.
And I supported Cori Bush as well. To the best of my knowledge, and I'm 99% sure I'm right, they didn't say one word about Israel.
Wow.
The argument was he's a bad Democrat or whatever the usual negative advertising. Didn't talk about.
He's right about this, and this is actually a very important point. AIPAC knows that if they were to constantly pump ads saying that like Jamal Bowman hates Israel, Jamal Bowman would have won the primaries. Okay. Even though he was redistricted, and even though there was a higher Jewish population, Jewish American population in the area, in the new district, and some of them probably had a more favorable opinion of Israel, like AIPAC knew that if they were to run ads being like Jamal Bowman hates Israel and that's why he must go, literally everyone would be like, okay, you, I don't like Israel either, which is precisely the reason why they didn't do that. And instead they were like, he's a bad Democrat.
But Israel.
So this is quite interesting, because if a group, like if a super PAC was honest about what they were raising against, for example, they spent that $20 million specifically defending their position on Israel, I wonder if we would be more amenable to that, because that is the issue at hand, instead of using funding to make this.
He would not have lost. If there were $20 million worth of ads in any market just talking about how this guy thinks Israel ain't dude, that would be positive campaigning for that person.
Here's what frustrates me the most. The DNC, as chaired by those who take corporate money and want to protect their donors at all costs, including those who work in the DNC who are not chair people that also want to protect their donors at all costs, derailed Sanders' campaign in 2016, derailed Sanders' campaign in 2020. And what has that got us? Because I truly do believe this. And I don't want to, dismay any voters, sway any voters in one way or the other. The lesser of two evils, as it pertains to different topics, not with a wide brush, is the Dems. The problem is, when you see someone who does not take corporate money, who wants to have Medicare for all, free childcare, free college, and does not want those same institutions that continually give to politicians to carry out their dirty work in the way of passing legislation that will not affect board members, why am I misspeaking? And the bottom line is rather eye-opening to me. Because what Sanders wanted to do would not benefit those in the Dem establishment. It would benefit us. It would benefit the middle class. It would benefit the lower class. It would benefit those in poverty. And he would tax the hell out of the top 1%, which is exactly what should happen each and every year. There would be a better way of living. Quality of life would be sent to the forefront. So what, again, just really gets me is I do feel as though the power brokers within the Democratic Party would rather have a Donald Trump presidency than a Bernie Sanders presidency, because they fought him tooth and nail. When the polling really showed how successful his campaign would be and how red states would even vote for him, because if there's one thing that a lot, not all, again, cannot paint a wide brush, that a lot of us want, it is for billionaires to pay their fair share and for us to have this country at least presenting to be less of a third world place and more modern. We want stuff to be fixed. We want roads to be good. We want our schools to be good. And we don't want leeches like the top 1% to be the welfare kings and queens of this country. And the DNC did not want that. They didn't. They ran a flawed campaign in 2016, still ran a flawed campaign in 2020, and an even more flawed campaign in 2024. And look at where we are now. If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports. And or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day.